Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 2 quarterback rankings for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we're going to be going in depth into the top 24 ranked quarterbacks for week number 2, and I'm going to be telling you guys why I have them ranked at each and every single spot inside of the top 24 for week number 2. But before we get on into the video, I would like to ask, if you are new to my channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I'd also like to ask that if you guys have a Twitter and would like to follow me, to please do so. I tweet all about fantasy football throughout the week. I also answer a bunch of questions on there. My Twitter is linked down below, and it is at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into the video. We begin with my number 1 ranked quarterback on the week, and most weeks that spot is reserved for Patrick Mahomes, but this week Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Minnesota Vikings seems like such a sweet matchup. Last week, going up against the Tennessee Titans, Kyler Murray absolutely eviscerated that defense. They stood absolutely no chance. Him and DeAndre Hopkins were just an unstoppable combo. Christian Kirk played really well as well. Rondale Moore obviously didn't score a bunch of fantasy points, but he was very relevant in this offense as well. Same thing goes with Chase Edmonds. Did a really good job. So did James Conner. While Chase Edmonds did score a majority of the fantasy points, while Chase Edmonds was in there a majority of the time, when they were actually, playing the game in the fourth quarter is when James Conner got a lot of his touches. When the game was basically over, they're still obviously playing the football game. They're still having a nice time out there, but, the game was already over. It was already out of hand, and that's when James Conner got at least half of his touches. So that whole offense just seemed to gel so well in week number 1 up against the Tennessee Titans, and I expect the exact same to happen here up against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings don't have all that great of a defense. Now, on paper, when you're looking at it, they're probably better than the Tennessee Titans defense, who just got dissected on Sunday. Like, there's no other way to really state it. They got picked apart, they got destroyed, they got eviscerated. All of those words are perfect ways to sum up what happened to the Tennessee Titans defense. So while the Minnesota Vikings defense isn't that bad, Kyler Murray should have no issue having a huge game this week up against the Vikings as my number 1 quarterback. At number 2, we have Patty Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Baltimore Ravens defense in Baltimore. Now, this is a matchup that is interesting every single year because Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes is such an interesting storyline, because Lamar has lost every single game he has played up against Patrick Mahomes. In all 3 matchups, Lamar Jackson has not won a single game. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, is 3-0. So does that mean that Lamar Jackson is going to be a terrible quarterback this week? No, we're going to get to him in a couple of minutes, but I think Patrick Mahomes here, despite the Baltimore Ravens having a relatively solid defense, Patrick Mahomes can beat any defense. It doesn't matter who's out there. The Cleveland Browns defense looked very solid early on in the game, and then you guys saw what happened last week. Even if they can't score a bunch of points early on, the second half opens up, the defense gets a little bit tired, and Patrick Mahomes goes out there, and it's like he's playing in his backyard. It's like it doesn't mean anything. The guy just slings the rock with such efficiency. He's just so fucking good. There's a reason why people drafted him as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football in so many leagues. This guy's going to dominate regardless of the defense, going here up against the Baltimore Ravens, whose defense looked to struggle immensely in the second half of the game up against the Raiders, which I expect to happen here up against Patrick Mahomes. At number 3, we have Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against my Miami Dolphins in Miami. While I think this on paper is a very tough matchup for the quarterback, it is. The Dolphins defense is very, very fortified up against the pass. Against the run, then they're definitely pretty weak in my opinion. They got ran on by Damian Harris. If you look back last year, Melvin Gordon ran a train on the Dolphins defense, but passing-wise, normally the passing defense is good until they play up against Buffalo. Josh Allen picks apart the Miami Dolphins defense every single fucking time they play, like clockwork. It is destined to happen here again. Even if I hope my Dolphins are going to win this game here, Josh Allen is going to pick us apart. He destroyed us both times we played them last season. Even in week 17, he barely even played in the game in week 17. They didn't need to play Josh Allen, and he still torched us for the couple of drives he was out there. So Josh Allen, he is destined for a bounce back game here after playing not so hot up against the Steelers defense last week. At number 4, we have Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Tennessee Titans. Now, if we're looking at all of these quarterbacks ranked inside of the top 8 I wouldn't be surprised if any of those guys, maybe even in the top 9, finished as the number 1 quarterback on the week. The quarterback position this week has a bunch of great matchups. Now, again, I said Josh Allen doesn't have the greatest of matchups on paper, but that's a smash matchup for him up against the Dolphins. If you're looking at the screen right here, there are not too many tough defenses that we are seeing right now these top-tier quarterbacks play against, so I like all of these guys, obviously, but I will rank them just to help you guys out a little bit more, especially if you're trying to set a DFS lineup or anything like that. So Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Tennessee Titans. Now, realistically, based upon what we saw Kyler Murray do to the Tennessee Titans, he did those naughty things to them. I believe that Russell Wilson should have a big game as well, but the issue here is if they get up hard on these guys, like if they are really beating them down, then Pete Carroll is just going to hand the ball off to Chris Carson 7 million times. But with that said, Russell Wilson is still a very safe option this week. The Tennessee Titans defense looked awful. I expect the defense to bounce back at least somewhat, but I still think Russell Wilson should have no difficulty just caving them in by throwing the football. At number 5, we have Tampa Bay Tom Brady of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Tom Brady loves beating down the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to the 28-3 Super Bowl choke of the Atlanta Falcons. This is another easy matchup, double cupcake matchups, 2 weeks in a row for Tampa Bay Tom Brady going up against the Dallas Cowboys, now the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons just got bent over and shellacked by the Philadelphia Eagles, so it should be no problem here for Mr. Tom Brady. At number 6, we have Mr. Discount Double Check, Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions looked pretty solid last week, if I'm being honest with you. At the end of the game, at the beginning of the game, it seemed like they stood no chance up against the 49ers. Now, the game technically began with Jimmy Garoppolo fumbling the ball. So it's like, holy shit, are the Lions going to be able to win this game? And then obviously right after that, it was like, no, they're not going to win this game. And then towards the end, they kicked the onside kick. They're doing all types of crazy things. It was fun to watch. And in the same week, the New Orleans Saints destroyed the Green Bay Packers. The Saints defense looked amazing. The Green Bay Packers offense looked like they had no idea what they were doing. Aaron Rodgers looked like he didn't even want to fucking be there. Aaron Rodgers finished outside of the top 32 in quarterbacks in fantasy last week, which was so unexpected because even if the Saints defense is relatively solid, everyone expected Aaron Rodgers to potentially win that game, or he was very likely to win that game. So him getting dismantled in that game was far from what most people saw happening. So now people may panic a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. They might think, you know what? Is Aaron Rodgers finished? Is Aaron Rodgers going to go to be the host of Jeopardy? Is he going to demand a trade out of there? The answer is no. He's going to go into this week on Monday night, go up against the Detroit Lions, and make them look fucking stupid. He's going to put up so many points in this game. It's not even technically a revenge game, right? Because he's only been on the Green Bay Packers. He's not getting revenge on the Detroit Lions, but in a way, it is almost a revenge game for playing so shitty last week. I think he bounces back in a big way in week number 2 up against the Detroit Lions. At number 7, we got Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys going up against the LA Chargers. Now, when it comes to the Cowboys, it seems as though the defense that Dak plays against doesn't matter at all for how productive Dak could be. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, in my opinion, may be the best defense in the National Football League, and if they're not, they're probably one of the top 5 defenses, the top 3 defenses in the NFL. And that didn't matter at all because Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb ran a train on him. Now, at the end of the day, they didn't win that game, right? The Bucs won that game, but it doesn't matter because what that game shows you is that even if Dallas is down and out of the game, if they're losing the game, they're just going to pass right back into it. If they're down to the Chargers, they're going to heave the ball later on in the game, which ups Dak Prescott's value. Now, if you're Mike McCarthy, if you're a part of this Dallas Cowboys team, you don't want Dak throwing the ball 50 plus times every single game. That is not good for Dak Prescott, and I agree, but for fantasy football, that's probably what is going to happen, and that is perfectly a-okay for Dak Prescott's fantasy value here up against a tougher Chargers defense. I expect him to succeed pretty easily. At number 8, we have Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we get on in to the breakdown of Mr. L. Jax, I'd like to ask if you guys have ended up enjoying to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button to help boost this video up the algorithm. It helps me out a ton. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please make sure, do not hesitate to ask in the comment section. So at number 8, we have Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, like I said, when we were talking about Mahomes, this is like Lamar Jackson's kryptonite. If he was Superman, his kryptonite would be the Kansas City Chiefs. He just simply cannot beat them. Up against every other team, this guy looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and up against the Kansas City Chiefs, typically he falters. Now, could this be a turn in the tide? Could they beat the Chiefs? In my opinion, 100% they could beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But I worry a little bit about Lamar Jackson in this game because Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown looked like they were the two best wide receivers in the National Football League up against the Raiders, and that is just simply not going to happen here up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Lamar does fine, but I'm tempering my expectations this weekend. Number 9, we have Justin Herbert, the pervert of the LA Chargers, going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, going up against the Washington football team proved to be a tough test for Justin Herbert. Now, he didn't play bad in that game, but he wasn't, at least in my opinion, he wasn't set up for success because that Washington football team defense looked tough. Now, in week number 2, that Washington football team defense did not look so good up against the New York Football Giants, but in week number 1, I felt they did look good up against Justin Herbert, and I don't think that's necessarily a shot against Justin Herbert. I think he's a great quarterback. Going up against Dallas is a cupcake matchup, so again, like I said, I would not be surprised at all if Herbert was the number 1 quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson was, if Dak was, if Rodgers was, if Brady was. Any of those guys could easily be the number 1 quarterback on the week because so many quarterbacks this week have such good matchups inside the top 10. Might be hard for some of them to outscore Graham Gano, though, because the kicker for the Giants scored 7,000 fantasy points on Thursday night. At number 10, we have Matthew Stafford, Matthew Snapback of the LA Rams, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, last week, I liked Matthew Stafford. I talked up Matthew Stafford. I've talked him up all offseason. I believed he was in the perfect situation to succeed in LA with Cooper Kupp, with Robert Woods, with Tyler Higbee, and with Cam Akers. Obviously, Cam Akers was hurt, so now it was with Darrell Henderson. But I was thinking, you know what? Up against these Chi-Town Bears, that's not a perfect matchup. Maybe we worry slightly. Now, again, I didn't tell you to bench him. I didn't tell you to do anything fucking crazy. But I said, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not risky, but maybe his upside isn't as high. I was completely wrong. He bitch slapped, forehand, backhanded all over the Chicago Bears defense this week up against Indy, who just got shellacked by Russell Wilson. I've said shellacked like 12 times in this video. I believe Matthew Stafford is going to have a huge game here up against the Indianapolis Colts. Another relatively solid matchup for Stafford in week number 2, even though it wasn't necessarily a really solid matchup in week number 1, but I think the Chicago Bears defense are on a downward spiral as a unit. So next up, we have quarterbacks 11 through 20. At number 11, we have Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Jared Goff looked like vintage fucking Dan Marino or something on Sunday up against the 49ers defense. Jalen Hurts looked really good up against Atlanta. I expect the 49ers defense to look a lot better because the 49ers defense was really good on Sunday until they started playing prevent defense. They were just trying to stop them from scoring, and by trying to do that, they just let them score because they're easily able to cut up the middle of the field. They're just protecting the sides. They're protecting so far deep that shit doesn't work. I don't understand why, hey, you know what, I'm the 49ers. We've locked down Jared Goff. We've locked down this offense all game long. Why are you switching? Why are you changing to this prevent defense? It doesn't prevent shit except for letting them score these points. It's so stupid. I don't understand that at all. I think Jalen Hurts plays good in this game, but this is certainly a tough matchup. At number 12, we have Ryan Tannehill of the Tennessee Titans going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, unless everything has crumbled, unless everything has gone completely wrong for Tennessee, and they do a complete 180 this year, going from a team that basically everyone and their fucking mother believes is going to make the playoffs, potentially make a run at the AFC Championship, potentially make the Super Bowl, if they go from that to a dumpster fire team that is losing all these games, I doubt it. I highly doubt that is going to happen. Ryan Tannehill should have a big bounce back game this week up against the Seahawks. At number 13, we have famous Jameis, eat a W, Winston of the New Orleans Saints. Steal your crab, steal your girl, fucking score touchdowns. Jameis Winston going up against the Carolina Panthers here in Carolina. Jameis dissected that Green Bay Packers defense. Now, it wasn't even a big game. He scored 5 touchdowns, but he was barely even doing anything. Because the Packers were so out of that game, it didn't even matter. It was amazing, though, because he threw 5 touchdowns, didn't throw that many yards. This game, I expect the Tugs to go back a little bit. He's not going to be throwing as many touchdowns, but I believe the yards and the passing attempts are going to go up here up against the Carolina Panthers because they're at least going to show some fight in this game up against the New Orleans Saints. At number 14, we got I'm in the pocket like Burrow, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, going up against the Chi-Town Bears. Matthew Stafford dissected that defense last week. Like I said, maybe the defense is on a bit of a downward spiral over the last couple of years. They were really good a couple years ago. Maybe now they're starting to falter. But with that said, it's still a tough task for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. But with the fact that Jamar Chase truly did a 180. He went from everyone clowning this motherfucker, including myself, saying that, hey, this guy, he can't even catch an NFL football. All these negative things going his way. Basically, everyone turned on him. And then in week number 1, he silenced us. He silenced everyone. He literally fucked the Vikings defense up. He destroyed them. And it was like, wow, who could have seen that coming? And in retrospect, it was obvious that he's that good, but it just didn't seem like he was going to be that good in week number 1. It seemed like the rust was going to impact him. Joe Burrow and him went to Pound Town up against the Vikings in that win. I think Burrow's fine here up against the Bengals. Up against the Bears. At number 15, we got Baker Mayfield of the Cleveland Browns going up against the Houston Texans. Now, this was an area where I struggled immensely to figure out who to slot at 15 between a bunch of these quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield is in the perfect matchup up against the Houston Texans. I liked Baker a lot last week because he was playing up against the Chiefs, and against the Chiefs, it's really hard to just pound the ball outright. Normally, the Chiefs, it doesn't take a while. The Chiefs just fire back at you, but it wasn't really a back and forth firefight between the two teams, right? Baker threw over 300 yards. He did not throw a touchdown. He threw one INT, but it's because early on in the game, the Browns were tapping that ass. They were scoring at will. Nick Chubb looked amazing. Hunt looked amazing, but then in the second half, a fire was lit under the ass of Patrick Mahomes, and he was lighting up the Browns. And then at that point, now Baker's still throwing the ball, but he didn't throw any touchdowns, so he got kind of fucked. Here up against the Texans, they won't necessarily need to throw unless that Texans offense is amazing like it was last week, which is the case. The Browns do have a tough defense, though. I think Baker is a fine option this week, but he is certainly risky, especially if they're up so big that they just hand the ball off to Nick Chubb 7,000 times. At number 16, we have, you like that, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings going up against the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Now, the Arizona Cardinals defense was unstoppable on Sunday. They sacked, Chandler Jones sacked Mr. Ryan Tannehill, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 total times. That's bad. What's a quarterback going to do if he's getting rocked within a second of the ball getting snapped? But with that said, I think Kirk Cousins has a better line probably than the Titans, because the Titans' offensive line looked like a fucking turnstile that you go through when you go into the subway station. So I think Kirk Cousins will be perfectly fine here. It definitely is a little bit risky. At number 7, we have Big Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the, turn your volume down real quick, the Las Vegas Raiders in Pittsburgh. Now, with Big Ben, he typically plays so good at home. This week he gets the Raiders. The Raiders' defense looked terrible early on. They looked a lot better later on in the game, but they're still not that great of a defense. I think Big Ben has no problem having a relatively solid week. At number 18, we have Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Horsecock, Teddy B, Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Roosevelt himself, Denver Broncos quarterback going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars just made Tyrod Taylor look like Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. I'm not even kidding. Tyrod Taylor looked the best I've ever seen Tyrod Taylor look, I'm pretty sure, in his career. The Jaguars defense is as soft as baby shit. Teddy Bridgewater isn't the most elite quarterback. He's not going to take these deep chances deep down the field, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter at all, because when you're playing up against this bad defense, he looked good up against the Giants. He can run the ball a little bit, get a little spicy. I like Teddy Bridgewater as quarterback 18. At number 19, we have Mac Jones, Mystic Mac Jones, the Big Mac himself, up against the New York Football Jets in New York, or in New Jersey is technically where the game is played. So with Mac Jones, I definitely have him ranked higher than consensus. And it's not because I think Mac Jones is necessarily amazing. Like, he looked good against the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have a really good defense. It's because he's playing the Jets. The Jets' defense stinks. Mac Jones should have no struggle. If he looked just good, pretty solid up against the Dolphins, then how is he going to look up against a Jets defense that could get easily carved up? Mac Jones seems to be in for a great game here up against the Jets. Quarterback number 19, though. Number 20, we have my boy, the quarterback of my Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. Many people call him Tua turn the ball over, but in my opinion, you keep saying that, you can Tua tug on my cock, if you get what I'm saying here. Miami versus the Buffalo Bills. As a Dolphins fan, it was a big hit to me that Will Fuller is missing this game. Now, Ryan Flores, Mr. B-Flow, our head coach, came out and he said that he will be missing time because of a personal related issue. It's not because he's hurt. My guess, again, I'm not someone who's going to, this is just a guess, that something happened to one of his family members potentially or someone close to him, and he wants to be there for them, or he needs to miss the game because he has to go somewhere. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you that's 100% fact, but based upon how Brian Flores said that, and based upon the fact that Brian Flores isn't just going to air out what's happening in his life, that's what I assume is happening. Now, again, it could be something else. Maybe he just doesn't want to play for the Dolphins, but to me that doesn't make much sense because every Will Fuller press conference that I have watched, he seems very happy to be there. So, Will Fuller, I know you're not watching this video. I know you don't give a fuck about me, but I love the Dolphins, and I hope that you are okay. I hope that everything is all right with you, and hopefully you are back relatively soon. Again, Brian Flores said he is not sure when he will return. He basically just implied that he wasn't sure when Fuller would be back because of this, so that obviously hurts Tua, but at the end of the day, not everything's about fucking football in life, right? So hopefully Will Fuller is okay. This does suck, though, for Tua. I thought Will Fuller was going to be a big part of this game. I like Jalen Waddle a lot. I think Tua's going to be fine. This is a game where Tua's going to have to fucking show what I want him to show. He needs to show us that he can make these throws. He needs to show us that he could go tit for tat with the defense. He did it against the Chiefs, and he did it up against the Arizona Cardinals last year. Can he do it up against the division rival, the Buffalo Bills, up against a very tough defense? I'm not sure. It's certainly risky, but he does have a lot of upside. Quarterback number 20. At number 21 through 24. Coming in at 21, we have Trevor Lawrence, who looked bad up against the Texans, but he also looked good at the same time. Now, I say he looked both good and bad because it was true. He made a throw, I believe it was to DJ Chark, that literally looked like something that not all quarterbacks can throw in the end zone. It was a dime. But then he throws these stupid interceptions, and he makes these other bad decisions, which are questionable. So, up against the Broncos, I don't love him. That's why he's quarterback 21. This is a tough matchup for him, especially with me not trusting all the way in Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars team in general. I think he has a solid season. Hopefully, Urban Meyer figures this shit out because Urban Meyer, it doesn't seem like he cares about James Robinson. It really doesn't. It's like, why are you not giving this motherfucker the ball? Even if you don't have James Robinson, you should hope for the sakes of Trevor Lawrence that they try to run the ball because that will help out Trevor Lawrence a ton. At number, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Man, oh man, did Matt Ryan disappoint me personally. I thought this game up against the Eagles last week was going to be that tit-for-tat game, the back and forth, the shot-for-shot game, but it wasn't. It was not at all. At the beginning of the game, the Falcons looked good. It was like, wow, the Falcons are moving the ball relatively nice. And then you could literally have went to go take a shit, or you could have went to go get like a beer or something, went to go take a piss, and you come back, maybe a drive or two has gone, and they just can't move the ball now. They just can't do anything. What the fuck was that? Now they're going up against the Bucs. I think Matt Ryan will have a fine year, but this is not a great way to start off the season. Definitely not trusting him this week. At number 23, we have Mono Man Sam Darnold of the Carolina Panthers going up against the New Orleans Saints. This is a alright matchup. I mean, not the Buccaneers, I should say. The Green Bay Packers got shut down by the Saints defense. I doubt that happens this week with Darnold. I think maybe they're able to fight into the game. But based upon what we saw of Darnold last week, I thought he would look way better against the Jets. Now, he was a fine fantasy streaming option. He was fine, but I expected more. A little bit worried about this game. Closing in the top 24, we have Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. This is a tough matchup. It really is. That Steelers defense is dangerous. Played really well up against Josh Allen. I expect them to play well here up against Carr, but there are still much worse options on the board than Derek Carr for the week. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button down below if you are new. I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys did end up enjoying, and please make sure to leave any comments, concerns, anything in the comments. I love you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Hopefully next week we can hit 18,000 subscribers. Thank you guys all for subscribing, doing all that stuff recently, because without you guys doing all that, there's no reason to make the videos, right? It's you guys that are doing everything. I just sit here in front of the camera and talk to you guys, so I greatly appreciate it. I love you guys all. I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. I will be back tomorrow talking tight end and running back rankings, and then on Sunday, we will be live in the morning on my channel. Then we're going to be live on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel at, I believe, 12 till 1. So I'll be live around 10:45-ish on my channel, Eastern Standard Time. And then Sunday night before the game, I will be live on the Osmo regular channel, the just DFS channel, and I'll be talking the Showdown DFS slate of the Monday Night Football game. So I hope you guys enjoy all the live streams, you enjoy all the videos. I love you guys so much. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, good boy.